Shadows of Ravensmoor Manor, Part 3. Chapter 14, Bound by the Unseen. The forest road stretched ahead of them, winding and obscured by the thick mist curling around the trees. Amanda's hands trembled against the wheel, her knuckles pale as she gripped it tighter, as if expecting the car to shudder to a stop once more. Marcus sat rigid beside her, his breath still uneven. The night outside the car was dense and soundless, the weight of something unseen still pressing against them. His gaze flickered to the rearview mirror, empty now, but the memory of the figure that had been there lingered like an afterimage burned into his mind. "Amanda," he said quietly, "we need to talk about what just happened." She let out a bitter laugh, still staring at the road. "Which part? The ghost hitchhiker or the fact that the house still has its claws in us?" Marcus exhaled, rubbing his forehead. "Both." Amanda nodded grimly. "Yeah. Thought so." The air in the car was thick with tension, neither of them daring to say it, that leaving Ravensmoor Manor might have been nothing more than an illusion. That the house had not let them go, not really. A shape flickered in the fog ahead. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. She slammed the brakes, the car skidding on the damp road as Marcus braced himself against the dashboard. The tires screeched, then settled into an eerie silence. Before them, standing at the edge of the road, was a figure. Not a shadow. Not a distortion. A woman. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her long black gown moving unnaturally with no wind to carry it. Her face was pale, hollowed out by deep, dark eyes that reflected nothing but abyss. Marcus's blood ran cold. "Amanda, do you see her?" Amanda, hands frozen on the wheel, gave a tight nod. "She's real." The woman tilted her head ever so slightly, as if studying them. Then, in one swift, unnatural movement, she raised her hand and pointed. Back the way they had come. Toward Ravensmoor Manor. Amanda's breathing turned shallow. "No. No way. We are not going back." The woman took a step forward. The air in the car plummeted, ice forming on the inside of the windshield. Marcus reached for Amanda's arm, his own heartbeat hammering against his ribs. "Drive. Now." Amanda slammed her foot onto the gas. The car lurched forward, the tires spinning for a moment before catching traction. As they sped down the road, Marcus turned his head just enough to see. The woman was still standing there. Unmoving. Watching. And then she vanished. Amanda let out a choked breath. "Marcus, what was that?" He swallowed. "A warning." Amanda shook her head violently. "No. No, we're not going back. We left. We burned the journal. We—" Marcus's voice was quiet but steady. "Amanda, if the house never really let us go, then there's something we missed." She slammed her palm against the wheel. "I don't care. We're not going back." But the car shuddered violently again. This time, it wasn't the engine failing. This time, it was the road itself. The headlights flickered, illuminating something that should not have been there. The road was looping. The trees blurred past them again and again, the same gnarled branches, the same broken wooden fence post. Amanda's knuckles went white. "Marcus, tell me I'm imagining this." He turned to look behind them. There was no end. The road stretched into infinity, bending the very fabric of time and space. The further they drove, the deeper they fell into something unnatural. The house wasn't just following them. It was pulling them back. Marcus pressed his fingers to his temples, forcing himself to think. "We can't outrun it. We need to stop." Amanda shot him a glare. "Stop? Are you insane?" "Amanda, listen to me." Marcus grabbed her hand, forcing her to focus. "If we keep going, we'll just keep looping. We need to face whatever this is head on." Her breathing was uneven, panic flashing in her eyes, but she nodded. "Fine. But if something touches me, I'm screaming. Marcus let out a short breath. Fair. Amanda eased the car to a stop, the fog swallowing the road ahead of them like a living thing. The silence was unnatural, no wind, no chirping insects, just the oppressive weight of something unseen pressing against them. Then, slowly, the radio crackled. Amanda's hand hovered over the dial. Marcus. A voice whispered through the static. Come home. A wave of cold horror crashed over them. The voice was not unfamiliar. It was Marcus's own. Amanda sucked in a sharp breath. Okay. Nope. Nope. Absolutely not. Marcus's own voice, distant and warped, whispered again through the static. The house remembers. Amanda reached for the ignition, but Marcus grabbed her wrist. Wait. She turned to him, eyes wide. Wait for what? Marcus, that was you. That was your voice. On the radio. He stared at the fog beyond the windshield, his mind racing. I think it's trying to tell us something. Amanda scoffed. Oh, really? Like, hey, welcome back, sorry I ruined your life, but you forgot something on the way out. Marcus didn't smile. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the radio dial and turned it. The static vanished. And through the speakers, one final message came through. You left something behind. The moment the words were spoken, the road ahead changed. The endless loop broke. And in the distance, barely visible through the parting fog, Ravensmoor Manor stood waiting. Chapter 15, The Return to Ravensmoor. The fog thickened as they neared the manor, curling around the car like grasping fingers. The headlights barely penetrated the swirling mist, casting eerie beams onto the overgrown path leading up to Ravensmoor. The house was waiting. Amanda gripped the wheel tighter, her knuckles white. Marcus, this is a mistake. Marcus swallowed, his throat dry. We don't have a choice. The car rolled to a stop in front of the iron gates, which had been closed when they left. Now, they stood wide open, inviting them back inside like the maw of a beast preparing to swallow them whole. A shiver ran down Marcus's spine. The weight of the house pressed against his skull, an unseen force pulling him forward. Amanda inhaled sharply. You feel it, don't you? He nodded. It wants us back. They stepped out of the car, their movements hesitant, reluctant. The gravel beneath their feet crunched unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. The house loomed before them, its windows dark, watching. Amanda rubbed her arms, as if trying to ward off the unnatural chill. What if this is what it wanted all along? What if it tricked us into leaving just so we'd come back willingly? Marcus didn't answer. Because she was right. They climbed the front steps, and as soon as Marcus reached for the ornate brass handle, the door swung open on its own. The air inside was stale, heavy with the scent of old wood, dust, and something deeper, something rotten. Amanda hesitated. We left something behind, it said. What do we even look for? Marcus scanned the darkened interior. The walls seemed closer than before, the ceilings taller, the shadows deeper. Everything had changed. We follow the signs, he murmured. A gust of wind slammed the door shut behind them. The house was alive. Every step they took echoed, sending ripples through the silence. The grand hall stretched longer than Marcus remembered, the portraits of long-dead Ravensmoor ancestors watching with hollow eyes. Then, a whisper. Upstairs. Amanda's breath hitched. Did you hear that? Marcus nodded, his pulse pounding. The voice had come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. A chill settled over them as they climbed the grand staircase, their footsteps barely making a sound against the ancient wooden steps. The higher they ascended, the heavier the air became, pressing down like an unseen force trying to slow them, to stop them. Marcus clenched his jaw and pushed forward. He would not stop now. At the top of the stairs, a single door stood ajar. It hadn't been opened before. Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. That's the master's study. Marcus nodded grimly. It's calling us. The moment they crossed the threshold, the temperature plunged. Candles flickered to life on their own, illuminating the massive wooden desk at the center of the room. And there. Another journal. Marcus's stomach twisted. No, we burned it. Amanda reached for it, her fingers trembling. The cover was identical to the one they had destroyed, its leather binding still pristine, untouched by flame. Marcus, look. Her voice quivered as she opened it to the first page. The ink was still wet. And it read. You left something behind. A cold gust of air rushed through the room, knocking over stacks of paper. The chandelier above them rattled. The house groaned. Marcus stared at the journal, his mind racing. What had they missed? Amanda's fingers tightened on the book. Marcus, we need to get out of here. Before he could respond, the study door slammed shut. Then, the walls began to shift. Marcus turned just in time to see the bookshelves twisting, stretching upward, the entire room warping around them. The desk lurched, sliding across the floor as the very foundation of the manor seemed to tremble. Amanda stumbled backward. The house is changing. The whispers grew louder, overlapping voices pouring from the walls, the air itself vibrating with their echoes. You should not have returned. Marcus grabbed Amanda's arm. We need to find out what we left behind, now. She flipped through the journal frantically, scanning the freshly written pages. It's all the same. The same entries from before. The rituals. The warnings. There's nothing new. Then she stopped. Her face drained of color. Marcus. She turned the book toward him. The last page had one final entry. The heir must finish what was started. The ink bled, shifting on the page, and before their eyes, it changed. The heir must stay. The room shook violently. Marcus's stomach dropped. He took a slow step backward. No. No, that's not possible. Amanda grabbed his hand. Marcus, we are leaving. Right now. But the floorboards groaned beneath them, warping as dark tendrils of shadow curled from the cracks, reaching, grasping. The manor had made its decision. And it had chosen its new master. Marcus gasped as something pulled at him, something cold and insistent. He stumbled, but Amanda yanked him forward, gripping him as if her life depended on it. I am not letting you go. She screamed, defying the very house itself. Marcus struggled, fought against the invisible force trying to keep him bound. The room tilted, the walls rippling like fabric, the ceiling stretching into a void of darkness. Amanda's voice was the only thing anchoring him. Marcus. Fight it. He clenched his teeth, reached deep into himself, and forced his legs to move. With every ounce of strength he had, he tore forward. And the moment they crossed the threshold, the study collapsed behind them. The door vanished. The hallway stood empty. Amanda gasped for air, still clutching Marcus's arm. He was shaking. They had escaped. But the house had made itself clear. It had only just begun. Chapter 16, The House's Will. The silence of the corridor was suffocating. The walls, once shifting and warping in their madness, now stood eerily still, as if the manor itself were holding its breath. Amanda's grip on Marcus's arm was tight, her pulse hammering beneath her skin. They had escaped the study, but the manor was not done with them. Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow, inhaling deeply, trying to shake the unnatural chill that had settled in his bones. His eyes darted around the corridor. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, the flickering candle sconces casting shadows that did not belong to them. Amanda whispered, "It's different now." Marcus nodded. "It's watching." They moved cautiously, every step echoing through the void-like silence. Marcus's mind raced, searching for a way out, a real way out. If the house had tried to claim him, if it had chosen him as the next heir to its dark legacy, then there had to be a way to reject it. Amanda glanced behind her. I swear the hallway wasn't this long before. They reached the top of the staircase. The grand hall below had changed. The furniture was warped, the paintings on the walls distorted, faces missing or melted into darkness. The floor stretched endlessly, as if they had stepped into an entirely different version of Ravensmoor. This isn't real, Marcus muttered. The house is twisting around us. A deep, reverberating groan sounded from the walls. The temperature dropped further, the candle flames shivering as a windless force swept through the corridor. Then, a whisper. Not spoken from a single source, but from everywhere at once. You belong to me now. Amanda tensed, her breath hitching. Marcus. The floor beneath them shuddered. Marcus barely had time to react before the boards beneath his feet gave way. He plunged into the darkness below. The fall was not like a normal fall. The air was thick, syrupy, pulling at his limbs as if trying to slow him down, to consume him. There was no end in sight, only a swirling abyss of shadows and whispers, tugging at his mind, trying to latch onto his thoughts. Memories flickered past him, not his own. Glimpses of past heirs, past victims, all caught in the manor's web. He saw flashes of Lord Ravensmoor himself, hunched over his desk, eyes hollow and haunted. He saw a woman in white, screaming, dragged into the walls by unseen hands. The house had devoured them all. And now, it wanted him. Marcus fought against the pull, struggling to find anything solid, something to grasp onto. Then, a hand closed around his wrist. He gasped, his body jerking to a halt. The abyss rippled around him, and then suddenly, he was yanked upward. Marcus crashed onto solid ground, his chest heaving. The darkness retreated, slithering back like a living thing denied its prey. Amanda knelt beside him, her own breathing ragged. Marcus. Are you okay? He coughed, pushing himself up. Yeah. I think so. His surroundings blurred and reformed. They were in a different part of the manor now, a room Marcus didn't recognize. It was circular, the walls lined with towering bookshelves, filled with ancient, crumbling tomes. In the center stood a pedestal, and resting atop it, a key. Not just any key. An ornate, blackened iron key, carved with strange symbols. Amanda's gaze locked onto it. That has to mean something. Marcus stepped forward, his fingers hesitating over the cold iron. The moment he touched it, the house screamed. The walls shuddered violently, books tumbling from the shelves. A blast of cold air surged through the room as the whispering voices grew frantic, furious. Amanda grabbed Marcus's arm. Marcus, what did you just do? Marcus clenched the key in his fist. I think this is it. The way out. The whispers turned to a deep, guttural growl. You will not leave. The ceiling cracked, dark tendrils of shadow slithering through, curling toward them like living chains. Marcus grabbed Amanda's hand, yanking her toward the door as the room collapsed around them. The corridors warped and twisted, walls bending inward as they ran. The key pulsed in his grip, burning with unseen energy, and in the distance, a door. Not just any door. The front door. Amanda gasped. Marcus, if we're wrong, we don't have a choice. He shouted. The manor let out a final, ear-splitting roar, the shadows collapsing inward, rushing toward them. Marcus lunged, jamming the key into the massive iron lock. The world exploded. A deafening crack of light burst from the doorway, blinding and pure, forcing the shadows to recoil, shrieking in agony. The house howled, its walls splintering, shattering, breaking apart as the force of the key's magic tore through its very foundations. Marcus and Amanda were thrown forward. And then, silence. Cold air. The scent of earth, of night, of freedom. They were outside. The manor stood before them, its once imposing frame crumbling, its windows dark and lifeless. The front doors swung on their hinges, then slammed shut. A final whisper curled through the wind, soft, defeated. Marcus and Amanda stood, trembling, barely able to believe it. They had won. But as Marcus turned the iron key over in his palm, a lingering thought settled in his chest. The manor was gone. But something inside it had let them go. Chapter 17, The Price of Escape. The night air should have felt liberating, crisp with the scent of earth and freedom, yet as Marcus and Amanda stood outside Ravensmoor Manor, something still felt wrong. The manor, its walls, once thick with whispers and unseen forces, stood eerily silent. The windows, which had once been watchful eyes, were black voids, their reflections swallowed by the abyss. The towering structure was collapsing inward, as though its very existence was unraveling. And yet, Marcus still felt it, a presence lingering beneath his skin, deep in his bones, as if the house had left its mark on him. Amanda clutched his sleeve, her breath uneven. Is it really over? Marcus didn't answer. He turned the iron key over in his palm, its dark metal still warm. Then a distant whisper curled through the air, so faint it could have been imagined. But Marcus knew better. You belong to me. His pulse quickened. The voice was not gone. It was just waiting. Amanda took a step forward, toward their car, the gravel crunching beneath her feet. Marcus, we need to leave before. A gust of wind surged from behind them, howling through the trees. The manor let out a final, deep groan, the stones cracking, the roof buckling inward as though something deep within its foundations was screaming. Marcus and Amanda ran. The earth beneath them trembled, sending cracks splitting through the ground as they sprinted toward the car. The headlights flickered as they jumped in, Amanda's fingers fumbling with the keys, her breath ragged with panic. The moment the engine roared to life, the manor gave one last, deafening wail. Then, in a violent collapse, Ravensmoor Manor imploded. A shockwave of dust and energy rushed toward them, shaking the car as Amanda hit the gas. The road twisted unnaturally, as if the land itself were trying to hold them back. Marcus turned in his seat, watching as the house that had nearly claimed him crumbled into nothingness. And yet, as the last of the walls fell, as the darkness swallowed itself whole, the iron key in his palm did not disappear. It remained, pulsing faintly, as if the house still lived within it. Marcus closed his fist around it, his stomach twisting. They had escaped. But Ravensmoor was not gone. It was simply waiting to rise again. Chapter 18, The Curse Endures. The long drive away from Ravensmoor Manor should have been filled with relief, yet the silence between Marcus and Amanda was thick with unspoken dread. The road stretched endlessly ahead of them, winding through the mist-laden countryside, the headlights barely cutting through the dense fog. The manor was gone, but neither of them felt truly free. Amanda's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Marcus, tell me you feel it too. Marcus sat stiffly in the passenger seat, the iron key still clutched in his palm. The metal was unnaturally warm, a steady pulse against his skin. It didn't let us go, he said finally. It just changed. Amanda let out a shaky breath. That house should have been wiped from existence. She swallowed. But it's still here, isn't it? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The key pulsed again. The air in the car turned stifling, the temperature dropping sharply, their breath suddenly visible in the dim glow of the dashboard. The road stretched ahead, but something was wrong. Amanda's fingers tightened on the wheel. Marcus, the road. He looked up and felt his blood turn to ice. They had been driving for miles. But they had not left Ravensmoor. The manor still stood before them. Amanda slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a halt, the force throwing them forward against their seatbelts. A deathly silence settled around them. That's impossible, she whispered. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. The house had crumbled. It had collapsed into dust. He had seen it with his own eyes. And yet, there it was. unharmed. Whole. Waiting. Amanda grabbed his arm, her breathing shallow. Marcus, what's happening? He opened his fist and looked at the key. The pulse was stronger now, more insistent, as if it had been leading them back the entire time. His voice came out hoarse. The house never dies. It just waits for a new door. Amanda shook her head violently. No. No, we're not doing this again. She threw the car into reverse, tires spinning against the wet road. The car lurched backward, but instead of moving away from the manor, the road twisted. The trees blurred, shadows shifting, warping, dragging them back toward the house. A slow, chilling realization spread through Marcus. We never left. Amanda let out a strangled breath, eyes wide as the car rolled to a stop on its own. The headlights flickered, illuminating the towering iron gates of Ravensmoor Manor. They were back at the beginning. The car engine died. The air was thick with something unseen, something heavy. The ground beneath them felt wrong, as though they were not entirely in the same world they had once known. And then, from the darkness, a figure stepped forward. Marcus's breath hitched. No. A man stood in the mist, his features eerily familiar, sharp cheekbones, deep-set eyes, a presence drenched in old power. Amanda gasped. Marcus, that's you. It was him. Or a version of him. The figure wore a dark, elegant coat, his expression blank yet knowing, as though he had been waiting for them to return. His eyes, however, were the most unsettling part. Black. Not void of color, but void of everything. Marcus's stomach dropped. That's not me. The figure tilted its head, as if amused. And then the manor doors creaked open. Amanda let out a choked breath. It was never about destroying the house, was it? Marcus felt the weight of the key burning into his palm. No, his voice was hollow. It was about finding its next heir. The figure stepped closer, and for the first time, it spoke. You were always meant to return. The whispers surged from the manor, rushing toward them, consuming the air, the ground, the sky. And before Marcus could react, the world collapsed into darkness. Epilogue: The shadow remains. The silence that followed was absolute. Marcus's consciousness flickered between waking and dreaming, his mind trapped in the thick, suffocating fog that had swallowed them whole. The last thing he remembered was the manor doors creaking open, the voice that had sounded just like him, whispering the truth he had fought so hard to deny. You were always meant to return. His eyes fluttered open. He was no longer in the car. He was standing inside Ravensmoor Manor. His breath caught in his throat. The house had rebuilt itself, towering, endless, and unchanged. The walls were the same dark wood, the chandeliers flickering with a spectral glow. The massive grand staircase stood before him, leading upward into an abyss of shadows. The air was heavy, charged, as if the manor was breathing him in. The whispers returned, curling around him, skittering through the rafters, crawling beneath his skin. Welcome home. A surge of panic shot through him. He turned wildly, searching for Amanda. Amanda. His voice echoed through the manor, swallowed by the walls. Then, from above, a single footstep. Slow. Deliberate. Marcus stiffened, his pulse hammering against his ribs. He knew what he would see before he looked up. At the top of the staircase stood the figure. His own reflection. The other Marcus, the one who had been waiting. Black eyes, hollow expression, a perfect spectre of himself. The figure slowly lifted a hand and beckoned. Marcus staggered backward. No. This isn't real. The whispers grew louder, voices layered over one another, ancient, pleading, laughing, demanding. The figure spoke in his voice. You were never meant to leave. A wave of ice shot through Marcus's veins. He looked down at his own hands and gasped. They were fading. His fingers were turning transparent, his body unraveling into the very shadows of the house. He clutched at his chest, but it was like grasping at mist. The house had already taken its claim. A realization hit him like a thunderclap: he had never left. The moment the house had collapsed, the moment he had stepped through the doorway with the key, it had sealed him inside. The real Marcus, the man who had fought, who had loved, who had tried to escape, was gone. This shadow of himself, the one who had beckoned from the top of the stairs, had already taken his place in the world beyond. He had been left behind. He was part of the house now. Forever. A voice, soft and familiar, cut through the dark. Marcus? Amanda. His heart seized. She was still here. Still trapped with him. A flicker of strength surged through his unraveling form. He turned sharply, forcing his fading body forward, stumbling toward the great door. If she was here, he could still save her. He could still fight. The house howled in protest. Wind ripped through the hall, the chandeliers bursting with unnatural light, the portraits on the walls twisting into grotesque grins. The stairway elongated, stretching toward infinity, as the other Marcus descended toward him. You belong here. No? Marcus roared, his voice shaking the walls. I won't let you take her too. A sudden force slammed into him, throwing him backward against the cold marble. The impact jarred his senses, and he blinked wildly, gasping for breath. And then, a warm hand on his face. His eyes fluttered open. Amanda was kneeling beside him, her face streaked with tears, her voice breaking. Marcus, wake up. Please, wake up. The car was back. The road was real. The manor was gone. Marcus sucked in a ragged breath, his body solid, whole. He was alive. Amanda sobbed, pulling him into a tight embrace. You weren't breathing. I thought it had taken you. He shuddered, clutching her like a lifeline. He could still hear the manor, deep in his mind. The whispers, the cold. But he was here. They had escaped. Or had they? As Amanda helped him into the passenger seat, he glanced down at his hand. The key was still there. And when he looked into the rearview mirror, for the briefest moment, he saw the other Marcus staring back. Smiling. The manor was gone. But the shadow remained. Forever. The end.
Every story has an ending, but some mysteries live on. If you enjoyed this tale, don't let it fade into the shadows. Smash that like button and subscribe for more thrilling stories that will transport you beyond the veil of the ordinary. Subscribe to our channel and your name will appear at the beginning of our next video, where we will pleasantly thank you for your subscribing. Tap the bell icon so you never miss a journey into the unknown. Share your thoughts in the comments. What twists did you see coming? And what secrets do you think still remain? Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and let the next story begin.